formal introductions, I would like to just share a few, not anecdotes, but a few notes about how I know or how did we chance to get upon Mr. Ann Feenstra to come and talk here. This happened by coincidence. Anupam Bansal, who's an architect practicing in Delhi, called me up, I think it was during COVID times, and he said that I have this friend who's teaching with me in SPA Delhi, and he would be traveling sometime shortly to Mysore. So can you please show him around the college that you have there? And soon enough, sometime last year, I think in August or September, if I'm not wrong, I get a call from him saying that I'm somewhere close to your college, can you direct me? And he walked into the college. So we spent a half a day together going around the college. It was still lockdown time, not many students. And that's where we actually, because till then I didn't even know, since Anupam had not given me an introduction to who this person was. So the introductions happened while sitting in the canteen. And he said he just moved into Bangalore, shifted base to Bangalore, and the formal introductions will anyway follow. And since then we have been interacting quite on and off. He's come to college because our students had gone to Himachal for a study tour, and then I had to call him to come and see the kind of work they had done when they were on the study tour. So he came and gave a talk on his experiences working in the hills, reviewed their work. Then last semester, I think it was in December or January, he had come to do a jury or a review for my class when we were handling the 7th semester. And then suddenly it struck that you have such a wonderful resource here in Bangalore, and we had just started MASA since January this year. This is the 4th talk. And just called him up and said that, would you want to, or would you like speaking on this platform? And he immediately jumped. He said, definitely, why not? So that's how he's here with us today. It is also interesting because for a change, we get to see work which is not the so-called urban kind of work which most architects, all of us love to see and kind of criticize or enjoy in the so-called urban setting. For a change, you will get to see work which has got probably nothing to do with the urban setting. So hopefully a welcome change at that. I'll ask Anand to now do the formal introductions. Anand.
Good evening to all. Before I begin, I would like to announce that we now also have an Instagram page. It's called MASA_Design Matters. So please log on to this to get any updates on our programs. Welcome all of you, and I welcome our guests today. We have with us Professor Ann Feenstra, and also we have with us the Deputy Consul General of the Consulate General of the Kingdom of Netherlands, Mr. Hein Lachafeen. Sorry. Okay. So I would like to introduce both of these gentlemen, and so I'll give a small introduction to Mr. Hein Lachafeen. He's the Deputy Consul General of the Consulate General of the Kingdom of Netherlands in Bangalore, and he joined the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2016 after graduating with an MA International Relations at the University of Groningen. He has worked for the embassy previous to having joined Bangalore. He's been in Suriname as a policy officer for economy and trade. So welcome, sir. I would also like to give a small introduction to Professor Ann Feenstra. He's a laureate of the Global Award for Sustainable Architecture 2012 Paris, and the former Dean of Architecture, CEPT University, Ahmedabad. Professor Ann Feenstra has been teaching at the SPA Delhi, in Kabul, as well as in Kathmandu. He practices a pro-ecology, pro-people, material upcycle, research-based form of architecture. His work of fundamentally rethinking the idea of making city through urban processes like Delhi 2050, Mussoorie 2040, and his ecologically sensitive projects have been embraced by communities all over South Asia. Presently, he has 2 mountain architecture teams in Bhimthal and Kathmandu with 7 projects under construction. Studios, lectures, juries take him to many places, including Harvard, the AA, Bartlett, Nairobi, Venice, Colombo, and his alma mater, Delft. I welcome you, sir. Um, I would like to I'd like to call upon the Deputy Consul General for a short discussion. He would like to talk about the activities of the consulate and opportunities for students. Following which, I would like to call upon Professor for his presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. My name is Heine Lagerveen indeed. I'm the Deputy Consul General of the Netherlands here in Bangalore since December 2018. I'm unfortunately leaving in a couple of months. My term here is over in August, so I'm going back to the Netherlands in August. I'm happy that Professor Feenstra invited me to be here as well. And I'm not an architect, I'm not a designer, I'm a diplomat. So I'm probably equally looking forward, perhaps even more looking forward to Professor Veenstra's presentation. So yes, I'm working for the consulate here. We opened our consulate here in 2018, and we are one of the 9 foreign missions here in Bangalore. We have different departments. But since I think the people in this room consist mainly of researchers, students, I would like to focus on 2 of the departments that we have at our consulate, namely our innovation department and our education department. First, our innovation department. It focuses on collaboration between India and the Netherlands in new sectors, hydrogen, space, but also other sectors. And it's looking for collaboration between businesses, but even more for research institutes and universities. And it also has a couple of grants and subsidies available for collaboration between India and the Netherlands. Not short term, but long term, multiple years. So if you're interested to learn more about that, please visit our website or come to me after Professor Veenstra's presentation. The second one is the education department. It's called the NISO department, Netherlands Education Support Office, and it's been here for over 10 years already, before us. And until last year, it was focusing on attracting Indian students, foreign students to the Netherlands to study at Dutch universities. But it has become a little bit too successful in that, in the sense that there are a lot of foreign students now studying at Dutch universities. So our society decided over the course of last year that we still invite foreign students, don't get me wrong, but we focus more on quality now instead of quantity. So we focus on those students that want to study at especially technical universities. So I think the people here in this room, looking at architecture, looking at design, fall in the right category of students. We have a couple of very good universities in the Netherlands. One of them is the Technical University in Delft, where Professor Feenstra also studied. And he informed me, I did not know this, but he informed me that 15 to 20% of the architect students in the master's program at our Technical University in Delft, our best technical university in the Netherlands, is from India. So if you're interested to study abroad, if you're looking at the Netherlands, you will not be alone as an Indian. Professor Feenstra, I know since a couple of months. He moved together with his wife to Bangalore a couple of months ago. And well, as a consulate, we always like to welcome Dutch people living here. I think there are about 60 to 70, 80 Dutch people in Bangalore at the moment. Professor Feenstra is a very, very welcome addition to that group. I would like to leave it with that. Thank you very much. Looking forward to the presentation and have a very nice evening. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to start with this one and then I'm going to walk around a little bit. I'm not so good in standing on one spot. Thank you so much for coming. It's a pleasure to see you all on a Friday evening. Very nice also to have people coming from Mysore and from Pune, especially for this occasion. I'm very honored that you are here. I would like to thank a few people. Of course, Anupam Bansal in Delhi, Prashant, thank you so much. Anant Srinivas, all of the MASA gang, I could say. Harun is doing the camera work. Sidhu is doing the controls. Let's see if you can keep up. And Kirtana and Danush made this beautiful poster. Thank you. So good luck, cameraman, to follow me. I'm not going to talk too much about architecture because if you have 3 doctors and they talk about medical issues, most other people switch off. If you have 3 lawyers and they talk about legal issues, it's very difficult to keep up with a conversation like that. It's the same with architects. We also have a certain lingo, a certain way of talking to things, and most normal people who are not architecturally deformed, they switch off. So, look at these guys in Kabul, Afghanistan. I'm going to talk about people and about collaboration. It's only possible for the guy in the green shirt to be there because of his friends. And I think that architecture is, I think, especially in the 20th century, gone way too much towards, let's say, star architecture, and that we all want to become, I don't know, a Norman Foster, a Rem Koolhaas, a Zaha Hadid, or whatever. Guys, it's the 21st century. We actually don't need star architects. I was lucky in Paris in 2014 to declare star architecture dead and buried. It's something of the 20th century. So what is architecture in the 21st century? Maybe one of the things that is different about our profession is that we have a slow profession. It takes a time to come up with a concept. And if you have something going in terms of a concept and it becomes a design, and you need to make the technical drawings and the calculations, and then you go to construction. So very often this takes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years before what you have in mind is actually something that can be used by other people. So it's very important, I think, to understand that we're not a fast, quick delivery, or as my friend Soumitra Ghosh says, we should not do supply. Ordering a pizza and then say, here is the calzone for you. That is not architecture. And one of the most important things I would say to the younger audience, or maybe also to the slightly less younger audience, is that we are also designed. We have muscles to speak and to talk, and our muscles are very much geared to saying yes. Yes. Can you do this? Yes. I like it like that. Can you do that? Yes, of course. We will do that. Yes, yes, sure. No problem. Right? Sometimes as a designer, you have to say no. No. Are you telling me no? But I am the client. No, I'm telling you no. You don't need to be rude. You don't need to scold persons, etc. But it's very important that you follow your own integrity. And that means that you need to learn how to say no in a nice way. Tagore has been very inspiring for me. One, of course, because he was big in education, and 2, he very much underlined the idea of whatever we do, it should be for human beings. And sometimes when you look at architecture, you think, is this really designed for people, or is it something else? These are my clients. A simple family somewhere in the middle of Afghanistan. And they are my clients because they actually use or they spend time in what we have designed. They don't pay, which is the official kind of client, but they use the building. So I'm deeply interested in the user and not so much interested in the person who pays me. I'm going to take you to a part of the world that shakes and shivers, both in terms of Hello? Yeah. Where the Karakoram and the Pamirs and the Hindu Kush come together, the earth is still shaking and moving and growing. Every day, the Himalayas go up, they grow. This is something very normal. So don't be afraid of earthquakes, just design with earthquakes. For your orientation, the Indian ambassador in Kabul always used to say, no, we have a border. India and Afghanistan have a border. Not everybody agrees on it, but I'm not here to talk about politics. So we move a little bit to this area, Kabul, and then I'm going to take you a little bit further towards the west. So when Hello? Yeah. So when you fly over, is it orange? Is this a Dutch microphone? Or was this a political move? When you fly over the Koi Baba, the central highlands of Afghanistan, where they have mainly Hazara people. Hazar means 1,000. It's supposed to be the 1,000 soldiers that Genghis Khan left behind. They have fairly different kind of features. Their eyes are a little different from most other Afghans. So there's quite a bit of discrimination going on. Perhaps you've read the Kite Runner book, where a Hazara boy is being treated pretty badly. But in terms of design, I mean, look at this. We can all go home, no, as designers. This is good design. Look at that. The best architect in the world is, of course, nature. Bamiyan, which you perhaps know of the Buddha statues. And this is a combination of simply Afghan farmers and Mr. Newton. There's very little water there. So you need to figure out what is the best way of how to guide your water so you have your agricultural produce coming up. If my students come up with a design like this, I give them a very high grade. So this is definitely, you could say, architecture without architects. There's also difficult things in Afghanistan, of course. Americans, my God, winning heart and minds from Afghan children with their big, monkey-style big gun, giving a sweet to an Afghan child and then thinking, why is the Afghan child afraid of me? I'm winning heart and minds, no? So thank God the Americans left, way too late, of course. Obama was supposed to get them out. He didn't have the guts. Then we had that, what is that cartoonish figure that used to be president of the US? Forgot his name. Is he already in jail or not yet? No, anyway. And then, of course, Biden did what needed to be done. This is Darul Palace. So there is quite a bit of destruction. 20 years of Russians, Mujahideen, civil war, and then Taliban 1.0. We have now Taliban 2.0. And this also happened. A couple of crazy Arabs blowing up a beautiful piece of 53-meter high cultural heritage of this country. The Afghans are really pissed off that this happened, and if you stand here, you really get angry. It's still on post stamps, but because it's been cut out, so it's a sculpture by a removal. It is not built. It's just removing material. So if you want to build another one, you need to start here and start cutting it out. And this is very brittle sandstone. So will the Buddha statues will be rebuilt? No, because that's not possible. This is also in Afghanistan. So to just demystify, not every Afghan woman is wearing a burqa. There are areas in Afghanistan where they have no clue what a burqa is. And this lady, of course, in the Wakhan corridor in Badakhshan, she takes care of her little kiddo. And taking care, I think, is something that is underestimated by architects. And by people, because not everybody takes care. A lot of times you see in the rankings on the world that Afghanistan ends up at the bottom. I'm going to take you on the right from Kabul, the capital. We go to the north. We go to the Khorband Valley. We pass Bamiyan, where the Buddhas are, and then another 3 hours to a place called Band-i Amir. Band means dam, and Amir is the emir, the ruler. And in this area, there are 6 absolutely stunningly beautiful lakes in this very rugged terrain at 3,000-meter altitude. It's a land climate, and it means that in the summertime, it's approximately 30, 35 degrees, and in the wintertime, the temperatures drop until minus 20. So that means that you have a delta T of about 55. Delta T is temperature difference. Yeah, sorry, I studied in Delft. This is how it looks like. And when you come a little closer, and you get stuck in the car. So there you are, global award winning in Paris, did my master's in Delft, etc. Have a big 4-wheel drive, and you get stuck in the snow. This guy is much smarter. He doesn't get stuck in the snow. And this is the first building that I'm going to show you today. It's like a little speckle that somehow rolled off the mountain, and it became the gatehouse of the first national park of the country. We designed it in such a way because it's stunningly beautiful. So there is no front, back, or side elevation. Everything that surrounds it is the front elevation. And at that altitude, you need to have a few basic starting points in mind. Minus 20 is not a joke. So you better be nice to Mr. Surya and invite him to warm up your building. It's Adobe, sun-dried bricks, and then we put in these local flat stones, because if you have an earthquake-prone area, they help to diffuse the horizontal tensions. If it becomes too technical, just start yawning, okay? We had done a building in Kabul for a German organization called GIZ, and we had used these beautiful Afghan stones and we used them for the building here. This is a detail. We used them here for the feet. So if you work with earthen architecture, or with Adobe, or some people, I don't think it's the right word. Mitti is a little better, but mud is definitely, I think, not the right word for this type of architecture. Earthen architecture needs good shoes. And you need a hat. Because even if you have dry snow and it melts, it will influence the erosion of the earthen architecture. So you need to give it good feet. And the way that we designed the building, I don't know how good your eyes are, but the same principle, or why an airplane flies because of the turbulence, that also happens here. So it's an arid climate, you have dry snow, and it almost automatically cleans out the corners of the building. This is facing south, so in front of the building you have a microclimate. Temperature is warmer. And this is passive solar energy. My friends in the Netherlands said, "Oh, you're doing Fred Flintstone architecture." I say, "Yabba dabba doo." So, on the top, you can see these are pieces of 120 kilogram local stone cut out. And these are 4 pieces of timber put together in one column. And there's nothing holding it together. It's double glazing. And of course, in the middle of Afghanistan, you cannot ask, send me some glazing panels from Dubai or from Switzerland, or double glazing, triple glazing, argon filled, whatever. But you need to sit down with the local carpenter and show him, because for architects it's very important that your structure and your facade in 3 dimensions, that everything comes together. And because it's a curved building, it was of course a little bit of a challenge. So you sit together with the carpenter and you indicate him that you need a gap of about 3.5 centimeters between the single local glass panels. That's it. It's not rocket science. You just need to sit down and work with it. And of course, they told me, Ustad Anne, there they call you teacher, Ustad, have you lost your mind? Can you not see? There's already glass in the panel. Why are you putting 2 pieces of glass? So how do you explain the conceptual idea of double glazing in the middle of Afghanistan? So we built 2 things, 1 by 1 meter. One is single glazing, one is double glazing. And we showed them the temperature difference. And they looked at it, they say, "What's the trick?" I said, "It's the air. Still standing air is a very good insulator." So it's not easy to do it and to convince people who declare you to be half mad to insist on double glazing. But if you go there today, in this place, the houses that they built themselves, they are made by double glazing. Because if it's the most comfortable building in the wintertime, you want your family to be comfortable, right? And if it's just 1 extra piece of glass that you need to put in and a little bit more timber, it's a good deal. This is the idea of the national park, where you have visitors. They will pay an entry ticket. The entry ticket goes to the local people. And then you have a kind of sustainability approach. They didn't account for that the Taliban would take over again, because of course the numbers to the national park have gone down. Oh, sorry, wrong one. And this is some reports from the Asia Foundation, where they found out locally in the area, unemployment, electricity, poverty, and poor economy are the biggest headaches for people. Nobody talks about Zaha Hadid or Rem Koolhaas. The second biggest headache is again unemployment and poverty. Water we have enough because of the lakes. So that's a blessing for this area. This is doing your homework. Basically, together with an organization called the Wildlife Conservation Society in the Bronx Zoo, set up by George Schaller. They have a fantastic program to work on the national parks, and they did the number crunching. How many people live there? What is the cattle do they have? What is the biodiversity in that area? What are the possible threats? And doing a little bit of digging. A lot of archives have been destroyed or were burned down, but we did find a few old images of the local market, the local bazaar. So thanks to the governor, Habiba Sorobi, who was the only female governor in Afghanistan at that moment in time, we debarked on the next project. So when you woke up this morning, I don't think you would ever have an image of Afghanistan like this. In terms of landscapes, the Taliban guys, they don't know how to run a country. So in 2-3 years, they'll be done. Please visit the place. It's absolutely stunningly beautiful. Both the people as well as the natural conditions. My prediction would be 23, 26, 27. Yeah. Thousands of little fish growing up in Bande Amir. And this is interesting because here you can see that the water is very calcareous. The pH value is very high. It's 8.1. So all this sediment that you see here from a deep lake, which has a deep blue color, to a shallow lake, where of course the color of blue becomes differently, all the sediment is travertine, that beautiful stone that we sometimes use in interiors. If you're a bad architect, use travertine on the outside of the building. Travertine. A lot of travertine. Yeah. Actually, in Karnataka, you have so much granite. Who needs travertine? So the lake on the left is called Bande Panir. So you know a Dari word. In Hindi, or Dari, or Panir is Panir. Yeah. What is it in Canada? You don't have Panir? No? Okay. So this is the local shrine. And when we came here for the first time, there were actually cars parked here. And one of the cars was changing their motor oil into the lake. And we were like, oh my God, how can you do that, man? And they said, this is okay. We used to fish with dynamite, so this is okay. So anyway, we got very concerned, and we is kind of everybody who worked on that first national park. It's a whole bunch of people, including the UNEP, the environmental program of the UN. And we said, we got to do something about this. So we came up with the idea to basically block the way from the road, force people to park here, and the only way you can walk here up to the shrine is by your feet, not by car. Because somehow something happens with us Homo sapiens when we have a driving mood and we have a steering wheel in our hands. We become a little bit asocial, so to say, a little bit too much empowered. And it doesn't matter whether it's male or female. So this was a kind of emergency thing that we did. And then we had some dreams. It's very important as designers to dream. I said, why can we not put this road on this side of the visitor center and the ranger center, ranger station? And is it possible that this 18-meter high waterfalls, the ecological zone officially, according to the laws, environmental laws, is 100 meter. So somewhere after 100 meter, this is not ecological sensitive anymore. So it totally doesn't make sense. So we said maybe we can extend the ecological zone all the way up to the road. This is the back of the ranger station and the visitor center. So you're now looking at it from the north. So -20, small windows. These adobe walls are very thick, 80 centimeters. But in the summertime, you need some cross ventilation. Here you can see the 18-meter high waterfalls. So this is what I'm talking about. We tried to see if it would be possible to change the road. This is the gatehouse. And then you pass this. And everything here, even if it's more than 100 meters, we wanted to make it into the strict ecological zone. And we got a lot of support. The gatehouse. This is the higher rocks in the area, so you can also see these horizontal lines of the sediment stones. Because a million years ago you had these massive rivers of the ice packs melting. So this is basically the edge of a massive river. So to blend in, we just used the local soil. It had enough clay, and they normally make it flat. But they use their palm of the hand to give it a rub. And if you do some tortation, the chances that your mud will stick longer is very much there. So I came to the site when they were still doing this. You can see it's still a little bit wet here. And I said, oh my God, this is so beautiful. This pitted kind of rugged facade. They said, no, we're not finished. Ustad Anne, we need 2 more days to make it flat. I said, your job is done. Let's have some chai. Yeah. And then over a cup of tea on an Afghan carpet, they said, but what about our payments for the coming 2 days? I said, don't worry, you've done a fantastic job. So sometimes also you need to, you design something, but this is the feet of the building. This is the head. This is the southern passive solar energy facade. And 140 meters away from this building, where the soil, the local soil, is a little reddish, the soil is much more gray. So Asian paints and Berger and Nerolac, they're not very good friends of me. Who needs paint? Seriously. So these are the public toilets, 140 meters away from the main building. Because behind the public toilets, we wanted to rebuild with the help of the governor and the local village people. Because they said national park, it means we can't wash our cars anymore, we can't do fishing with dynamite anymore, we can't do this, we cannot do this. National park means there's a lot of things that you cannot do. So they said, what's in it for us? And they came up with a story about once upon a time we used to get our livelihood from there. So the governor, smart lady, she studied actually medicine in Delhi at AIMS. She said, let's invite the 4 villages and then see if we can rebuild the market. And then via a very interesting bidding system, all the families got a quarter of a restaurant or whatever. So that was an interesting thing to see that. So he's a Hazara, slightly more Mogulite kind of features. Fantastic guys, super hardworking, really, really nice guys. And of course, if you work with communities, there will be discussions. So all this blah, blah, blah about inclusive architecture and community-based, a lot of time it is just kind of, I don't know, kind of a little bit of a fake thing afterwards. If you really want to design for people, you need to stake out time. You need a lot of time to listen to them. And then try to see if something can be kind of figured out. Because people might not agree with you. People might have an opinion. So how do you deal with that? This is Sarobi, Habiba. Absolutely fantastic. They should really give her a big prize. What she has done for the central area of is great. The guy next to her is from the Ministry of Agriculture and Irrigation. This guy is a representative of the National Environmental Protection Agency. But with Habiba in the house, 17 guys, one lady, she's the boss. No way about it. And we are looking at the drawings and doing the discussion with the villagers about who is going to get which restaurant and store. Another thing, if you design, you're all sitting on a chair. If you're very important, you're sitting on the front. If you're not so important, you're sitting in a plastic chair, right? So Afghans, if they look at the plastic chair, they say, what is this? If the chair is from wood, at least you can put it in the Bukhari in the winter. But the idea of sitting on a chair is slightly strange. I don't know exactly, I've not done the research about the history of the chair and when people started to sit on a chair, but it's really bad for your back. We're not designed to sit on a chair. It's much better to sit either on a rocking chair, or to stand up, or to lay down, or to sit cross-legged. This is my wife, Anamita. Hi. So again, no burqas, guys. So we had a beautiful exchange program with a local family, where we brought some things for them, and they made this beautiful little carpet for us. Yeah. And so when the floor is the most important thing for sitting, and you forget about the conceptual idea of having benches and having chairs. If you go back in history, the Romans, they already had it. They called it the hypocaust, the underground heating system. In Manchuria, in Korea, they call it the kang. So the kang is a stone platform. You have in Korea, you have the kitchen out. You have the kitchen outside. We've been many years in Afghanistan. We're used to this. So the warm air and the heat goes into whatever you're cooking, and the warm air doesn't go out, but it goes under the cavity that is under the floor. So it's a basic principle of floor heating. And then, of course, warm air goes up. So you need a chimney to create the draft. And most of the time, this is in the shape of an onion. It's curved, because air, moving air, never does 90 degrees, right? That is Michael Jackson. That is not air. Air is smooth. So here you can see, when we're building it, that underground heating system. So here you have the cooking, the kitchen area, and then the air goes under it. And the accumulated warmth in the dry sand and in the stone makes it really, really comfortable in the winter time. And then the next morning, when the sun comes up, the passive solar energy does its job. Because you can imagine nightlife is not so fantastic there. It's a little different than Bangalore. So around 8 o'clock, that 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, that's it. Bas, khalas, and then time to sleep. The other thing that you can see here is the ring beam. If you design in an earthquake-prone area, you do need a ring beam to deal with the horizontal forces. And then the thickness of the wall is 80 centimeters. Yeah, it's a little different than the Bangalore setting. Okay. Can I have some water? Is that possible, gentlemen of the organization or ladies? So Jana Revedin is a professor in Europe, and one of the things that she studies is she's not interested in new buildings. She's interested in how buildings behave after 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And I find that fascinating. Because why would we spend 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years on something that is quite nice when it's opened and it's shiny and it's whatever? Yeah, thank you. And then after 10, 20 years, it looks like, I'm not going to use that word. So how do you design buildings that age well? So when we made the zoning plan and the master plan, this is what we found for the market. These were the remains, the ruins. And then here you can see the visitor center, the ranger station, and the public toilets. This is the plan. All the buildings that we made are based on the same solar kind of orientation. In this case, it's 21 degrees towards the east. Of course, facing south, but then towards the morning sun. If you do it in Nepal, it's slightly different, of course, because of the solar calibrations. This is the setting out with Khalid and Faiz Mohammed in the backdrop and a strange American cowboy there. And then basically working with them to make their own buildings with your own hands. Local material. Popular timber. Assalamu alaikum. So, because of the rebuilding of these small restaurants that are in the daytime for eating, and then when the sun is down, they roll out the mattresses. So this is a multifunctional hall, but those buildings are also multifunctional. So it becomes a hotel overnight. Normally, people would travel from Bamiyan. They leave Bamiyan in the morning. They arrive here around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. And then around 4 or 5 o'clock, they go back to Bamiyan because there's no place where you can stay. So for local people to have a bit of income and for the visitors to experience this, and you can imagine, I don't have a picture of it, but if you have a full Milky Way up there and then the mirror of the Milky Way in the lake, that something is really absolutely amazing. So this is looking at the market area, winter time, and a historic photograph. You can see this rock is quite prominent. Yeah. This is Jamshid. So all the eating, drinking, chitting, chatting, etc. was removed from that ecological sensitive area to this place. This is Juma, Madness. And this is how it looks. This is about 4,000 meters, 1 kilometer up. Took me 4 hours to make that walk. And then you can see, I guess, one of the largest bathtubs in the planet. So this became the new ecological zone. We did manage to move the road to the other side of the visitor center. This is planning to make it into a campground. Again, we need to wait 3-4 years before the Taliban has finished themselves. And then this is the reconstructed market. Thank you very much, Habiba. So now I'm going to take a sip of water and I'm going to take you on another plane to Nepal. slightly higher altitude. Namche at the bottom is 3,400 meters. And I don't know how good your eyes are, but there is the Mount Everest between the Noptse and the Lhotse. What year is it today? Huh? 23? 23? 2023? Anybody else? Do you believe it's 2023? Today I congratulated all my colleagues in Nepal because it is 2080. Nepal is a little bit ahead of, I guess, you guys. Yeah. So the same planet, huh? Where is the 2023 coming from? Who came up with the idea of 2023? If you ask the Afghans, it's now 1400 something something, right? So all these calendars. And I quite like the idea of being alive in 2080. Sounds good, no? Anyway, this is the Kungde from Namche, if you look up. So this is all slightly higher altitude. And I've mentioned the name of the highest mountain on the planet one time, but I'm going to leave it with there. Because Mr. George was from Britain, and the Nepalis were very suspicious of the British. They saw that they had messed up a lot of things down south, and they said, we not welcome these guys. So Mr. George, with the name of the famous mountain, never set a foot in Nepal actually. And only 12 years after he retired, some colleagues named the mountain after him. Crazy, no? So if you ask the Nepalis what is the name of the mountain, they say Sagarmatha, which is something like the holy mountain. So I call it Sagarmatha. Sagarmatha, somehow people want to climb it. I have no clue why people want to climb it. We're not designed to climb that mountain. It's really a bizarre idea to. Why would you do? You need to prove something to yourself or to somebody else. Why do you want to be on top of that mountain? Just let Sagarmatha be. And all these people who want to climb, they bring a lot of pollution. Because they need to eat, they need to drink, and if you eat and drink, also something comes out, right? So there's a lot of waste on that mountain. The Sherpas, who is the ethnic community that is living there. Sherpa is not somebody who carries your backpack. Sherpa is a community. They are policemen, they are teachers, sometimes they climb up the mountain. They decided to do something about it. They decided in the 2 climbing seasons that they have to go and climb Sagarmatha just for the sake of cleaning it. And when you clean it, the waste comes to Namche. And then, unfortunately, it's too expensive to fly it back. So most of the time, they either burn it or they bury it. And they say this is not a good solution. And then they asked me and my team if we could help them design a mountain waste upcycle center. They said it's a local problem. We need to find a local solution. I said, why don't you ask the mountain what to do? They said, no, if we ask Sagarmatha, they will say, just stop climbing me. That's the real solution. So this is maybe the second best solution, because also the Sherpas become quite affluent. If you have the idea that you want to climb the mountain, it's going to cost you at least $25,000. And the Sherpas have left some of their traditions, and they discovered cement. So they're building now really bad buildings. So when we went there and we said, we're happy to help you, we're happy to design it, but we're not going to do this kind of stuff. This is really mediocre. But they said, no, cement is strong. I said, no, cement is very stiff. If you work in an earthquake-prone area, you don't need materials that are stiff. You need to be able to go with the earthquake, move. Ask it on the bird who's sitting on the tree, or the monkey, or the leopard who's running around. They have no problem with the earthquake. Only bad buildings. Bad buildings kill people. Earthquakes don't kill people. So after the discussions were done, they said, so what do you propose? I said, my God, you have so many skills. They make these mani stones. They make these beautiful letters chopped out, and this is a floor detail where you can see the local slate and then local timber. I said, my God, if you can do this kind of finishing, it's fantastic. Here you can have a good view of the wall thickness. I somehow seem to like thick walls. Yeah. In a hot climate, thick walls are very good. In a cold climate, thick walls are very good. Most of the time, thick walls are very good. This is a discussion with Ang Sherpa, and with Finjo, Himanshu from my team. And I think this is about the moment where we're going to start a short clip. This is, again, collaboration. As an architect, you're just one person. You have a team. It's about collaborating with a lot of different people. For your orientation, Kumjung, Namche, and it's somewhere in the middle. And this is on the way to Everest. Can you start the movie? It's about 7 minutes. It was made by Nundrisha Baklu, a filmmaker from Delhi. After this short film, I'm going to come back with perhaps a few takeaway points, and then we can do a round of questions or maybe remarks.
Himalayas became solid and formed this stone. It's a granite. It has some quartz and small black speckles. The Sherpas traditionally carve out spiritual messages in stone, and they use the sturdy granite as a building material. So I asked the builder to give me his best mason. His name is Zebi. I first asked Zebi for a single curved stone. That was okay. Then a double curved stone. That was a challenge, but he managed to chisel this out of a raw piece of granite. Sagamata next is situated at 3,800 meters altitude, just above Namche Bazaar, the last larger town on the way to Everest Base Camp. The open landscape is stunningly beautiful. Turquoise and yellow dotted meadows are mixed with outstretched poles of drooping juniper trees and rhododendron. While clouds are rolling in, raptors glide overhead. Yaks freely roam around, carefully picking out the juiciest grasses and the tastiest herbs. everything is moving. At Sustainable Mountain Architecture, we normally design with nature. For Sagarmatha Next, we first designed with the wind. Carefully curved shapes of the interpretation center and the workshop deflect the strong mountain gusts. Together with the south-facing cafe, the buildings form the Langang Square. Langang is the flat area in front of a traditional Sherpa house. Here you can rest and recuperate. Drink some water, orientate yourself. It is a pause point. Enjoy the cafe and visit the workshop where waste is being upcycled. The Interpretation Center will provide insight and knowledge for you. Local school children are most welcome.
For the Interpretation Center, the walls that we designed are curved. And that means that if the walls are curved and also the roof is curved, you end up with a very sharp point. This one, which might be a little bit aggressive. So we tested it out and we thought that if we do a double swallowtail by slightly cutting back the front part, it becomes very elegant.
Once the full set of detailed drawings by the Sustainable Mountain Architecture team was completed, the first full loop of creating architecture was made. Next was the construction process, the challenge of the actual making of the buildings. Together, these two loops make 720 degrees of architecture. As architects, our team took time to explain the design of the buildings to the Sherpas. We wanted to find a local builder. News spread fast and everybody wanted to see what the project was about. Yes, everybody. After 2 years of preparation, we finally could do the setting out. Together with the builder, Chiring Sherpa. The foundations could be made just before the long winter set in. In a cold climate, in an earthquake zone, a well-balanced mud mortar is best. For a perfect mud mortar, all the ingredients need to come together. Yellow deep soil, yak dung from Kumjung, eggshells from the Namche Bazaar bakeries. Local material is the future. To bind the mix, I asked Chiring for mustard oil. After 2 days, he came to me with a big smile. He had found a small bottle and I could make the perfect mud mortar. Over lunch, I asked him, where did he find it? Oh, stole it from my sister. She uses the mustard oil for her hair. Time for a break. Time for Su Chia. Made by our cook Dan, the mixed Sherpa, Rai, Tamang building crew all enjoy this heavy tea. The horizontal timber bands in the wall have a function. They make the buildings earthquake resistant. In the third building season, we reached the roof level. The heavy lunch made by Dan provides new energy needed to lift the 500 kilogram truss beams into their positions. 45 of them. The design of the walls and the windows welcome the energy of the morning sun. For the interiors, we designed 2 series of yak wool curtains. We choose to use a variety of patterns in several natural colors. to celebrate the local skills. A century ago, Rabindranath Tagore from Bengal described what goes beyond the bricks and the mortar. In his book, Creative Unity, he talks about the soul of a building. For the local children, it is an exciting day trip. For you, it is hopefully a life-changing pause point. From an Himalayan bird's eye perspective, it is just a dot in the landscape.
With that specific location for a longer period of time. Listening. I've talked a lot today, but we have 2 ears, and we have 1 nose, and we have 1 mouth. But architects and engineers, they're really bad in listening. Most of the time, they want to convince people that this is the way forward. So there must be a reason why we have 2 ears. So please use the ears to listen to what people have to say. In the beginning, I talked about architecturally non-deformed people. It's really, really important that you go beyond the usual lingo of, no, I'm doing this. Why? Because the contractor says it, or because the client wants it, or because of this, or because of that, and those kinds of things. Think yourself and ask, who is going to use this building? So you can imagine that I don't do a lot of speculative work where you have no clue who will actually use the building. There's a lot of wisdom, and Homo sapiens has been around for a long time, and I sometimes wonder if we should not be called Homo stupidus, because I see that we're doing a lot of stupid things. We're really making our own lives quite a bit in a nightmare. So if there are hundreds and hundreds of years of accumulated wisdom of what to do and what not to do. To give you an example, in Uttarakhand, we have a team in Bhimtal, close to Nainital. We see people coming, Delhiwalas or guys from Gurgaon or Noida or whatever. They go to the mountains, they have no clue about the mountains. They see a little river, they buy a piece of land, they want to build a hotel, and then monsoon time comes. And they said, oh, this little river is now gone crazy and my hotel is collapsing. So local people have been looking at these outsiders thinking, why the hell are they building it there? They would never do that. So it's very important, I think, not to let power and money and those kind of speak, but think about what we already know. I don't know if you know what is Aikido. You probably know what is karate, right? Attack. Karate is quite aggressive. Aikido is the opposite. So if somebody wants to hit you or somebody wants to kick you, you take that energy and you throw that person behind you. Sometimes my buildings are called Aikido architecture, because if you have a strong wind, design with the wind. If you have a sun, if you have cold, if you have all the aspects of nature that are there, design with it rather than that you say, no, I made my drawing, this is my elevation, it needs to look like this, and I don't give a damn about nature. Design your buildings with nature. They will last longer. And they're healthier. Create ownership. I hope I've been able to show you at least 2 or 3 small projects that we've been doing with our team, where we constantly look at how can we, as butterflies, because architects are like butterflies. We go from one project to another project. and we move on. I'm not living in Bandiamir. I'm not living in Namche with the Sherpas. I am here in Jainagar, right? So how do you leave behind ownership where people take care of that building? This is something is absolutely crucial for sustainability. But it's a softer aspect. It is much easier to talk about, I don't know, the acadabra of calculations about thermal insulation and all these technical things that I've also talked about. Because if you can quantify it, it's much easier, no? And then you can call it, no, my building is LEED rating or GREHA rating, gold or platinum or 7 stars or 3 stars or whatever. All these green rating building systems, the 2 buildings that you've seen here, they fall off every scale. They don't fit into the green building rating systems. They are way too green. So LEED, for instance, is an American rating system. You get bonus points if your building is in Nebraska or Alaska. Wow. So thank God India didn't take LEED, but you come up with GREHA, which is much better. CASB, what the Japanese are using, is also much better. But green rating building systems are by choice. If you believe as a project developer that if your building has a green rating, you can sell your apartments better, then do it. But it's by choice. There's no law that tells you that you need to do this. Shared responsibility. I always say that I'm just a guy. I'm very lucky that I have a lot of motivated people around me. But like the beginning slides, we have a slow profession. So to make something work, you need to not tell people what to do, but you need to work together. I think the best built environment interventions are all the result of a collaboration. And on that note, I want to thank MASA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful presentation. So I wanted to know a bit more about your journey from how you ended from TU Delft till Kabul. So if you could expand on that.
How I came to Kabul?
So like your journey from after TU Delft, after finishing your education, how did you end up working in a place so far away from your own home, and how did you end up in Kabul or these places that way? And into this kind of architecture as well.
I didn't go to Antarctica.
So still, as in from after TU Delft, I'm saying. So what was your timeline? Like how did you end up there? Like what was your journey?
How many hours do you have?
Yeah, all the time, sir.
I think it's a long story, but I think an important maybe characteristic of people who work in the creative industry, whatever the creativity is, I think curiosity is very important. And I'm a curious person. So I've been on all the continents, I've traveled a lot over the world, and I felt that I had gone to Afghanistan for about 10 days, and I felt, because it was such a amazingly different thing than what you see on CNN and BBC, and I like history and culture. So they asked me if I wanted to teach there, and I thought, why not? Maybe do it for a year. That became a little bit longer. I met my wife in Kabul. She was also working there, and we stayed for about 7.5 years. So I think the butterfly story, I think if you're a designer, whether you're a graphic designer or whether you're a landscape designer, or if you're in the creative field, the world is your oyster. Language can be a little bit of barrier, but you know, I remember in the 90s, one of my friends was working in China. I went to China, and China in the 90s, I've not been recently to China, but
good luck, huh? You can't read anything. So you draw. You need a bus, then you draw a bus, right? It's easy if you can draw. Yeah. I don't think I answered your question, but
Thank you, sir.
maybe I should ask you why would you are you from Bangalore? No? Where are you from? Pune. So whatever you're gonna do, never ever settle down in Pune. You're too young. Roam around, travel. Some people they say, sir, where should I work? Should I work with Renzo Piano? Should I work with Rem Koolhaas? Should I do this? Should I do that? I said, travel. Travel? He said, yes. Traveling, you learn much more than working with one of these buggers.
This romantic setting.
It's a very nice presentation. In the beginning of your presentation, you said something. You said it's very important to say no, and you should also learn how to say no. And later part of your presentation, you said you should listen. I myself, I find it very difficult balancing between those two, saying no and then listening. So how do you, or do you have anything regarding that?
It is very difficult. But I think if you, I mean, listening is also using all your senses to get observations about what is the real job. Because I think it's too banal if a client throws a program at you, says, I want this, so many square meter, da da da, this is the FAR, da 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 da. Can you do that in 3 weeks? What's the point? Why did you study all these years architecture? To make a bloody drawing for this person. So, I've had several times where I listened to somebody who came to me with an assignment, with an assignment or a potential
New project. And I very much believe in two-way traffic. So sometimes I tell people after, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes, I said that I'm really sorry, but I don't see what I can add to your things. Or I hear you only you're talking about a building. And I said I'm not interested in buildings. I'm interested in architecture. Because architecture for me is related to culture. And buildings, anybody can do a building, no? You just ask the building contractor, 3 stories, corridor, 5 rooms. Not rocket science, no? So what's the added value of you in this process? Why would that person who is talking to you, why would they spend their money on you? And from your perspective, why would you spend your precious time on something that doesn't contribute? Just a little bit more concrete and bricks. From a philosophical point of view, you could say that's a waste of time, right? If you're rude, yeah, and I'm Dutch, so I can be pretty blunt. I've had people in Kabul asking me from the embassy, they came, your colleagues, British colleagues, very nicely dressed up, very charming. I'd worked 5 years in London, so I knew a bit about keeping up the appearances. They said, you're the best architect in town, you're this, you're that. I became a little suspicious. Too many compliments. So that sounds a bit fishy. So I said, what's the project? They said, no, we'll come next week and we'll talk about it. I said, what is this? British Embassy secrets? Are you James Bond? They came back the next week. So I said, tell me, what is the project about? And this is an open office setting with Afghans, etc. They said, Actually, in the UK, we have too many Afghans, and they're winding them up, and they're putting them on the plane back to Afghanistan, because somehow they have been, and we actually need a kind of a residential building. I said, you mean a jail? No, yeah, we keep them there. I said, are they free to move around? No, not really. He said, I'm a human being. Do you really think that I want to be part of this? Do you really think that I can design it? And then one of these British guys, really nice to hear that, he said, but we pay you very well. I said, there's the door. So that was a fairly straightforward way of saying, I do not want to work with you. I don't want to be part of that, right? So this is, I think, where your conscience or maybe ethics comes in. And I've had several times when people came back and they said, actually, you explained the difference between a building and architecture. And actually, this land has been with us for a long time, and we want something interesting. So I said, then let's have another cup of tea and talk about it. That's my professional stand. Yeah. I hope I kind of answered. Yeah. Hey.
Hi, I just want to know, given a choice, what would be your most favorite ingredient? I don't know what to call it. Would it be wood? Yeah, the material. Most favorite material to work with, given a choice? Or do you always look at the place and kind of pick and choose, yeah, this would work best, so I will work with this, that kind of a thing?
Well, I think as a painter, where you have the whole palette of paints to your availability, we also have that as architects. There are a lot of materials that we can use. We're doing some buildings in rammed earth. It's a nice material. You saw some sun-dried bricks, you saw some granite, timber, etc. Some concrete. Some people say, you hate concrete, huh? I said, no, I don't hate concrete, but I do think that very often concrete is completely used in a super casual way. So I call that stupid concrete. If you look at, in the 1910, when this material came out, the history of concrete is interesting. The first thing that they made from concrete was in France. It was a gardener. He was sick and tired of his flower pots bursting in the wintertime. When they froze, they expanded and they bursted. So he actually made concrete flower pots. That was a success. Then the second invention of concrete was a boat. Rather than timber that you need to maintain and etc., that starts rotting, they made a boat from concrete, most useful. And then it started also to become interesting, because if you turn the boat around, you have a nice arch. So now, how many people really design with concrete? Most of the time it's just straightforward. So that I don't like. If you design with wood, we did a project in Punjab. The building contractor ran away. He said it's too complicated. This is circular and then this is curved, so there's a double curve. I have no clue how to do it. We spoke to local people. This is in the Harike, where the Satluj and the Beas River have their sangam. And so they're boat builders there. If you ask a boat builder about a double curve in timber, they said, of course. We never do 90 degrees as boat builders. So 3 of the boat builders joined me. We went to the Sadar and say, we have somebody to help you build this building. Then they could explain how actually simple it was. So I don't have a preference for any material, but I think it should be a conscious decision. And of course, it's slightly difficult to use asbestos, right? Because there's too much evidence that that material causes serious damage, right? If it is exposed, etc. But whether it's glass, or whether it's metal, or whether it's whatever. But aluminium, I hardly ever use. Yeah, actually, I don't think I've used aluminium in the last 20 years. Yeah. In London, yes, but in Asia, no. Aluminium is difficult in terms of the impact, the bigger impact that it has for the environment. So the knowledge is there. There are materials that I get excited about, but as I said before, you go from one place to the other one. I mean, I've worked in Rajasthan. I've done a project in Punjab, high up in Afghanistan, in Sikkim, in whatever, different places. It's really important for me and my team that we take time to see what are the skills, how do people build, what is still there. And different than in Europe or in the United States or in most parts of Japan and Korea, where a lot of skills have gone down the drain. In South Asia, you have a massive amount of skills still available. Is it going to be there in 30 years? I'm not sure. I don't have a crystal ball. But use these skills. Because if you design something in an area where they do shipbuilding, and they know how to deal with timber in double curves, you can use it. And in the clip that you saw, the stone that I asked Sebi to cut out, if he had not been able to make that stone, we would have changed our design. Because as an architect, if you design something that is too difficult for the builders to make, then good luck, you can make it yourself, right? More questions? Just gonna... Yep. 1 second.
So, if you had to make a 5-story, 6-story building in Bangalore, and how would you make it sustainably? What materials will you use in a place like Bangalore?
5 stories is easy. If I'm well informed, they're building in Paris a 14-story building in timber. 14. So 5 stories is easy. You don't have earthquakes in Bangalore. That's a big, that's easy. Bangalore's easy. So I think you can use a lot of things. You can use earth, you can use steel, you can use timber, 5 stories, bamboo. Yeah. But I'm not sure if they're going to ask me to design a 5-story building in Bangalore. Let's see. Somebody said that next week we're going to open the first Red Panda Conservation Center in the world in East Nepal, in Tapaljung, close to Sikkim. And 2 months ago we got the green light from the government of India for the first snow leopard conservation center in Gangotri. It's a government project, so it might take 5, 6, 7 years. They don't go very fast. But somebody said, well, if they're going to ask you to make, I don't know, in the Western Ghats, you have all these beautiful frogs and all these amphibians and all kind of stuff. If they're going to ask you to design that, would you be interested? I think so. Let's see. But 5 stories is easy. It becomes a little bit more challenging. I mean, Google Djenné Mosque, Mali. You have a smartphone? Beautiful cathedral, 5 stories in mud. Absolutely stunning. And it was not made last week. It's been there for a long time. 5 stories. If it becomes 8, 9, 10, 12, you need to think a bit more about the possibilities that you have. With 5 stories, sky is the limit.
Sir, I had a question. To your right. I'm here. It's a very inspirational story about finding the boat builders to, involving them in the construction process. And so my question is a little extension of what you were saying, is that is there a learning curve and an acclimatization period that you have before you actually start designing in a particular context? And second is a little more mundane. I'm just curious about how modern disciplines like engineering and climate calculations and this figure into your process of working with local craftspeople. Thank you.
We do calculate. We do calculate, to start with your second question. So for instance, we did a project in Sikkim East, which is about nearly 4,000 meters. It's wet and cold, which is difficult. Because if it's dry and cold, it's much easier. You can ask my friend Sonam Wangchuk. You have a lot of sun and you can do passive solar energy, the things you saw in Afghanistan. Arid climate is much easier. But if it's wet and cold, it's more challenging. So we did this project with WWF for local villages to improve their houses, to make better thermal insulation. And we'd done it for 3 houses, and it was a little funny actually, funny story. We have time? That means we have 1 more hour. Thank you. Sign language. No, I'll wrap it up in 15. So WWF, right, the big name, Prince Bernhard, the Wildlife Fund, etc. They said that we've been working with these village people and the community, and it's quite difficult. And the idea was to do 3 pilot kind of houses where we would work on it, and then involve local craftspeople, and then work with people so they could see it and they could replicate what we had done if they liked it. So they said it's very difficult because how do you choose these 3 houses? And I said, well, we're going to ask them, right? They said, no, you decide. You're the architect. I said, I'm going to decide in this village which houses we're going to kind of upgrade. Why would I be the decision maker? They said, no, but the decisions here in the village is very difficult. I said, wow. Normally, if you have a village, there is some community meeting, there's whatever. So anyway, we went out, we had a bite, we asked a few local people. We said, how do you take decisions here? They said, normally we have a meeting and tomorrow there's a meeting in the morning. I said, great, can I come? Sure. So we asked them in the morning, would you be able to identify 3 buildings that everybody from the community agrees that They said, no problem. 20 minutes, they had the 3 buildings. So I went back to breakfast with WWF and I said, community has decided. They said, how did you do it? I said, I actually talked to the people rather than impose. I forgot your first question, sorry. No, sorry, to finish the story. So this project was taken up by a student, a master's student at the AEA in London, to do, it's called, I think, SED, the sustainability kind of group at the AEA. They did all the calculations. And it turned out that thermal insulation had improved 55%. So we said, we always said it roughly 50%, 55, a little bit more, it's okay. So yes, we calculate, but let calculations not stop you from making things or designing things that make sense. Common sense. You know that if you use a massive amount of aluminium and you have not thought about where the sun comes from, you will need to cool down that building, or you need to heat up that building. So if you don't give a damn about electricity bills, or you don't give a damn about the environment, do it. But if you are a little smarter, if you know what's happening on the planet, etc., use this knowledge that is available. Architecture is not rocket science. Okay? Your first question?
My first question was, is there a learning curve or an acclimatization period that you engage in before actually designing in a particular context, so that you can absorb something from the place?
Actually, there's no formula. Like this example that I gave in Sikkim. I mean, my first briefing of the Sherpas, 4 elderly Sherpas, they told me, we want to talk to you about the buildings you're going to design. They say these buildings need to be tikau. Then we don't want you to use these flimsy building materials. We want you to do this, we want you to do that, whatever. I said, my God, this is my own lecture. We're going to get along very well. So of course, if you work in challenging environments, sustainability is just more clear. In Bangalore, you have such a wonderful climate. So you're deeply spoiled here. You don't need to think about too many climatological kind of things. Thank God things are warming up a little bit. So at least you have a little bit of a challenge to deal with overheating, right? And there are some buildings, you can see it around you, that you think, oh my God, poor people inside. Yeah? They're so smart, they have 2 PhDs and they are very good in IT and all kind of this kind of things. And they're in such a stupid building. Yeah? Goggling energy and those kind of things. Anyway, half an hour to go. You had a question.
So part of my question, I got the answer here. A part of a solution comes from a problem. So I was thinking that lot of people are driven towards non-eco-sensitive architecture. Like currently, the idea of luxury is mostly non-eco-sensitive in India. So where will the first step start to building something which is eco-sensitive?
Do what they want. Nice shirt. You brush your teeth, no? Yeah? So can we say that every day you look in the mirror? Maybe. Yeah? What do you see when you look in the mirror? Do you see somebody who on purpose ignores what is happening on the planet? Or can you look yourself in the eye? It is your own responsibility. It starts with you. I'm a kind of, my white hairs on my goatee are growing. It's not style, it's just being lazy. Next week it's gone because it starts to become scratchy. We have really messed up things, my generation and the generation before. We've left you guys, the young next generation, with a big challenge. You need to do it better than we have done it. You need to step up. So it is not possible to just do linear development. Build more for the sake of more. The intelligence of your beautiful culture, your Indian culture, and South India, the Deccan Plateau, my God, you go back a lot of thousands of years. In Europe, we were still playing around in the mud when you were already having a high culture period, right? So why would you throw away all of that? They say there is a Gini coefficient. Have you heard of that? Not GDP. Don't look at the GDP, but Gini. Have you heard of that? No? Anybody heard of Gini? My God. Thank God. Kaustup. Thank God there is one. Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah. So please check out what is development. If we are not Homo stupidus, but we are Homo sapiens, how do we contribute? How can we contribute to the advance of a culture? That's not happening by linear development. It's not happening by pouring endless amounts of concrete and building just quantities, more. That is not advancement, in my mind. That's just more. When the deputy of the Netherlands consulate told us about, in the Netherlands, we don't go for quantities. We go for students who are really motivated. Yeah? Some people have asked me, can I do an internship with you? Yeah, please. We have a lot of people who write, they want to do an internship. We want to learn from you, sir. Sure. The first thing that I tell them, talk to your parents. We've had too many people from Italy, from Germany, from Nepal, from India, whatever. They want to do an internship, but my parents don't allow me. Wow. How will you learn? So you need to take your own responsibility. When you're 15, 16, 17, right? You have enough brains, you have enough smartness to start carving out your own path. If you want to do something, if you want to make a change, if you want to contribute somehow to not only me, myself and I, or not linear development, but something more meaningful, there's a bucket of opportunities. And if you find collaborating people, fantastic. Really, really fantastic. We're trying now in Uttarakhand to do more projects in bamboo. It's difficult, but we're going to try. Nepal, it's very easy. Nepal, we do a lot of stuff in bamboo. They have the tradition, they have the craft, they treat the bamboo, they take out the glucose. So treated bamboo actually becomes a building material. Uttarakhand is still difficult. And you're thinking, why? Most of the time when India looks at Nepal, they say, we are far more developed. Well, not in this case. And the best momos also come from Nepal, not from Bangalore. Sorry, I don't know how I got to the momos. Are there other questions? Yeah. Oh, it's the same guy. A lot of questions.
So I wanted to ask, so there's a question and then there's an extended question to that. So I have a question and there's an extended question. I wanted to ask that, have you worked, do you have projects to show or as an example for an urban setting? Because so paradoxically sustainability becomes a byproduct anyway in harsh climates or areas which are far away. So that comes as a part of it. You learn directly from there, and then you can do that. But so like you said that we need to start from ourselves. So if I do something and set an example in an urban setting, I can have more network effect, and the problems are coming from here. So we can start solving the problems in an urban setting. So how would you approach it, or have you ever approached it to do that? The second question? Sorry, it's that only, sir, if you can.
Well, I don't know about your capacity to Google or to talk to people, but there are an amazing amount of really, really good urban projects that has been done by many, many colleagues. We've done a few urban projects, but I don't think that if you do something for a national park, then suddenly you need to think about sustainability. Why? It's the same planet, no? Why would an urban project don't give a damn about sustainability? For me, it's the same. If you do in an urban setting, for instance, water harvesting, roof gardens, you can do a lot of things. It only becomes, and I've said it before, slightly challenging if the project is speculation. Speculative projects, especially when you deal with impatient capital, then it's difficult, because that is money, that is business. There is no incentive in the department of money making to think about things. Actually, you're encouraged not to think, just do it. So you can see that some of the building contractors, they now employ designers and architects. So you don't need to hire an architect and those kind of things. These guys are thinking too much, they're too difficult, they have too much ethics and difficult questions. You go straight to the construction company, right? Or the project developer, they call it, right? So, urban, suburban, in the middle of nowhere, rural, it's okay. We've done recently a small park in Kathmandu. It was a dumping site. And somebody from the ward, a local government guy, had the idea to build some shops in that little niche, rent it out, and then I guess put a little bit of the money in his own pocket. The local community protested. They started with 3 people. One of them asked me, "Can you help us?" I said, "Sure." So we spent 6 Saturdays to clean up that park, to protest, and say that the community, this is earmarked to be a community park. How can this government person grab the land and do whatever he wants to do? Yeah? And via the back channel, we whispered in the ear of the mayor of Kathmandu, "Do you know that the guy who's working for you is doing this?" Yeah? It took us 6 months to get to the point that the guy said, "Okay, the community now has grown to 90 people. Elections are coming up. So I think the community should decide what to do with the park." If you go there today, fantastic. Victory of the community over some kind of babu. Yeah? Grassroots, yes. And sometimes you need to talk to somebody high up. Because a lot of middle range people are quite scary of what's happening above them. So you got to be smart. Grassroots, but sometimes also a little bit more than that. Last question.
In the beginning of your Nepal lecture, you spoke about observations, and you said this one specific line where you said, "We need to ask the mountain the questions." So my question to you, taking this context as a generalization, is, first of all, how do you ask the mountain questions, and how do you know what it has replied? Or how do you know when it has replied?
Suppose you're the mountain. Yeah? Sagarmatha. Congratulations. #1 in the world. Yeah? The mountain cannot speak. You can ask him, "Mountain, do you like it that people are climbing up you? That people are dumping their waste? That people are taking a dump? That people are leaving behind?" Whatever. If it's a French or Italian mountaineering expedition, they always leave wine bottles behind, right? These guys can't do without wine. You can ask him. The mountain will answer. Mountain is not interested in human beings. This whole idea, all these campaigns or United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, it's absolutely rubbish. It is not that we are here to save the planet. It's not the job of human beings to save the planet. The planet would be very happy if we are not there. They would say, finally, these guys, they came in a blip and they finished themselves off. Planet would be very happy without Homo sapiens. So it is about saving ourselves. Perhaps what we have up here, we can use it. One of the things that, as far as I know, is not existing with the camels or with the fish is something called culture, right? So if culture is one of the things that is different from us than a lot of other species, maybe the butterflies have a culture, maybe we just don't understand it. I should ask my friend Peter Smitacek. He knows a lot about butterflies. So I think there is, sometimes you see it with children. Then, I don't know, daddy is drinking something, finished, and they throw it away. And the child said, why are you doing that? Because the child heard in the school it's not good to throw away. The father, what is the answer? Difficult, no? Why are you doing that? It's a good question. So, maybe we are the fathers, you are the younger generation. Ask difficult questions. The mountain will not speak, but there will be an answer. That's maybe a nice ending of the talk. Huh? Thank you so much. And I give the microphone back to Prashant for the,
Thank you so much, Professor Ann. Brilliant talk. Half the audience is unfortunately left. But anyway, I request Edgar sir to please come here on stage to give a small token of our appreciation to Professor Ann. Please. Yeah.
Before I hand over this rather heavy gift to Anne, I'd just like to make two observations. I wanted to ask questions, but it got rather late. One is that I think he told this guy from Pune how somebody from a country that has its highest mountain, that is most likely 100 meters high, goes into a place where nothing is less than, well, mountains are not less than 3,000 meters high. So as he told you, you've got to leave your comfort zone. First observation. The second is putting together all that accumulated knowledge at Delft and then go to the places he showed us where he went and acquired accumulated wisdom, makes you now get into a guru status. And therefore we welcome you to Bangalore in that status, and we hope to see your work continue here. And thank you for a very enlightening lecture.